Good morning, and a warm welcome. I hope you rested well last night in the stillness of this place, the gentle rain, the beauty of that quiet morning. We are going to be spending the mornings in silence together, and after the lunch break, after you've had lunch together, we'll have an opening to speak with each other. But I would ask on behalf of the Abbey that you do it quietly and perhaps not in a public space if others are really trying to keep a sense of stillness. So there won't be any rigid monitoring of this, but just to be mindful of the sense of quiet in the guest house and here, of course. We'll see if the technology cooperates this morning. This will be an experiment. And we'll have a break around 11, I believe, tea and so on, coffee, and then we'll gather back here for a few more minutes. We break at 11:30. Are there any questions about process or schedule? Yes?
Sometimes it's a little bit silent. It's about silence, but I don't...
Here.
Also, I'm not a native English speaker.
Yeah. I wonder, can we use the speakers?
You can, but it's a handheld.
Okay.
Communicate via that.
Okay. Would that help with a speaker, or should I simply enunciate more clearly?
This is also okay. If you
Okay, that's great. And perhaps if you sat right in front of me,
yes, perhaps.
That's probably the best idea. Let's move a chair over. No, I think that's okay. Let me move a chair for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Privilege.
If you do have difficulties hearing me, because it is a very still area, just put up a hand. And because of my horrible American accent, for some of you at least, it may be that I say some unforgivable things in your ears, but not from my mouth. Well, I'd like to return to where we ended last night, briefly, with this quite remarkable early poem of Rilke's. When he wrote these poems, he was 23 years old. It's astonishing for me to imagine that outpouring of early genius. He'd gone to Russia, as I mentioned, with his beloved Lou, and wrote these poems as a gift to her. He inscribed them in a black book, the prayers for Lou. And only a year later did he realize that he wanted to extend them and write an entire book of prayers, which became the Book of Hours. But in this opening section, they're all written as if by an old monk. And that first part is called the Book of Monastic Life. That was the title Rilke eventually gave it. And this monk was an icon painter or writer, as the Orthodox would say, who was in a community, a small community, and was dealing with all of the anxieties of age, of faith and doubt, of a struggle to find a way to speak, address God. And so all the poems are written to you, and in the first version, Rilke capitalized the you to signify the divine. So this first prayer that we have comes from this time. My life is not this steep hour in which you see me hurrying, so you, Lord. I am a tree standing before what I once was. I am only one of my many mouths, and at that the first to close. I am the stillness between two notes that don't easily harmonize because the note death wants to lift itself up. But in the dark interval both come trembling to join as one and the song remains beautiful. I loved this poem when I first read it. Yes?
In German, is that a rhyme scheme? Or is
It is a rhyme scheme, yeah. And I chose not to rhyme these poems because it complicates the diction, conveying what Rilke was really trying to express through images and through the music of the words themselves. But thank you. Almost all of his poems were heavily rhymed until the very end of his life, when he wrote the great elegies. We'll get to those perhaps tomorrow or later in the week. And that was a big exception. Otherwise, he was a rhyming poet. But the rhymes weren't the sing-song rhymes of nursery rhymes. The rhymes are woven into the flow of words. And so often, you don't even hear them, really. What you hear is the music of the language, not the end rhymes. Because he doesn't write the poems, ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. You know, the iambic pentameter, that familiar cadence of English poetry. And so often the enjambment, the lines move across. The flow of the words moves across. It's the music that you hear most of all, not the rhyming.
Second question.
Yep.
So was he Orthodox or?
No, Catholic.
But he went to Russia.
He went to Russia and he was amazed by what he discovered in Russia.
So
He was.
So the influence from the Orthodox Church when he was there, I guess, is what.
It was very strong. He and Lou had made arrangements in advance to meet the great Russian writer Tolstoy. And upon arriving in Moscow, they met with Tolstoy. He was in the city. He had a country estate some hours away, but he was in the city. They met to speak. And Tolstoy was enamored with Lou. She was gorgeous. She was a beautiful, articulate. She spoke Russian. She was everything that Rilke wanted to be. He aspired to be Russian. He aspired to have this flavor in his life. And Tolstoy thought Rilke was ridiculous, that he was somehow artificial. He dressed in a strange way. He had mannerisms. He had an artificially cultivated life, I would say, which Lou helped him undo. That's another story. But he fell in love with Tolstoy said two things: just avoid the church, it's all superstition, and don't have anything to do with the peasants, they're vulgar. So Rilke, who was so offended by Tolstoy's rebuff and his enamorment with Lou, decided that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the church, we're going to spend all our time in the church, and we're going to get to know the peasants. So he began dressing like a peasant. It's a little silly. He began attiring himself in peasant clothing for these months that they were together in Russia. And they arrived on Holy Friday and spent the entire weekend in the Kremlin, in the old part of Moscow, which had 9 monastic churches. And it was one particular church where they spent the Holy Saturday, where he said he heard for the first time the Easter story, when the great bell, Ivan something or other, pealed at midnight on that Easter morning. So the Orthodox experience was profound for him. He'd just come from Italy, and he loved Italy. Who can't love Italy? You know, the beauty of the churches, the Renaissance, the cherubs, the bright churches full of all kinds of things happening in the paintings. But it was the darkness of the churches in the Kremlin that really moved him. There are almost no windows. If you've been to some of those churches, they're very small windows. And of course, today they're illumined with lights like these. But in Rilke's day, there would have been lamps, kerosene lamps, and candles. And of course, these churches, I could show you pictures of them perhaps at another session, are adorned from floor to ceiling with icons. Every column, all around the columns, all the way up to the top, icons. And of course, the iconostasis always has icons, but the walls were covered with icons. Not just icons on the walls were covered with icons. So it was like being in a chamber with 1,000 saints looking at you, gazing at you. inviting you to be present. This was overwhelming to Rilke. And the darkness of those churches gave him something that he never lost. My God, he said, is a dark God. We'll get to this.
Real quick, one more thing. So, he's Austrian, but I was trying to do some research on him before the class, but he grew up in, or he's
He grew up in Prague.
Okay.
And,
Czechoslovakia, I guess.
well, it wasn't Czechoslovakia at the time. It was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It was Bohemia. It was the province of Bohemia. And just across town, about half a mile away, in the Jewish part of Prague, a child was born 8 years later, another writer named Franz Kafka. It's astonishing to me. They must have met each other. They must have seen each other. They probably never met, but they must have seen each other walking through the streets. It was not a huge city at the time. Crossing the Carolus Bridge, I can imagine Rilke is an 8-year-old and Mrs. Kafka with a pram of some kind and young Franz Kafka being pushed along. It's kind of mind-boggling, actually.
I agree. I didn't realize, I forgot that was Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Right. It's another time. So I wonder, last night, when you took this poem with you, what line caught you? Where was it? My life is not this steep hour. I'm a tree. I'm only one of my many mouths. I'm the stillness. All of these I am statements. These declarations of who he isn't and who he is. Who you aren't and who you are. Because this retreat really is an invitation for you to discover who you are. Underneath all of the impressions that others have of who you should be or who you could be. But who are you? Who am I? And why am I here? To what end is my life given to me in this time and place, to us, together in this time and place? This theme will be woven through every talk that I give, and that central assertion at the end, and the song remains beautiful, is one I will carry through these talks over the next 4 days. If the technology cooperates, we're going to hear a non-worded song by one of the most remarkable young a cappella groups I've ever heard, Voces 8, a British group. Some of you will know them. Let's see if this works. Sign in to confirm you're not a bot. That's the world we live in. And I can't do that from here, so I'm sorry.
What's the name of the group? And I'll look it up later.
Well, that's all right. Mike, is there an easy way to get around this?
Yeah, I could play it for Mike. But otherwise you'd have to sign in.
No, that's all right. I think we're going to let it go. I'm sorry. But I'll give you the link. You can listen to it if you have internet connection, called Scene Suspended. Scene, S-C-E-N-E, Suspended by Voces 8. You'll find it through YouTube. A beautiful visual, audio-visual video recording. Well, here he is, just a few words about Rilke. He was born in 1875 in Prague. His parents gave him the name René Karl Wilhelm Johann Joseph Maria Rilke. It's a big name for a child, and you'll notice, if you know something about Austro-Hungarian history, that these are all the names of kings: Wilhelm, Joseph, Johann, Karl, but not René and not Maria. René was his given name, which Lou, when they met and fell in love, told him he had to change his name to something far more masculine and something far more German. And so she renamed him Rainer, which is a name by which he's known, although his given name, his birth name, was René. His mother had lost a daughter a year before he was born, who died shortly after childbirth. She wanted a daughter. And when Rainer was born, she named him by this neutral name, René, and for the first 5 years of his life dressed him as a little girl, which wasn't that unusual in the days before there were Pampers and diapers that were easily accessible. Often children were brought up wearing simple cloaks, dress-like attire. But his parents wanted to tough him up, particularly his father, who was a thwarted military man. He wanted to become a military officer. So when he was 11, they sent him to a military school in Austria, in St. Pölten, where he spent 6 miserable years. He was an artist. He was a poet already. He was writing poetry, and he didn't fit in with the other boys who were toughening up for a career of military service. He begged his parents to let him come home, and they finally did in 1892. So he took entrance exams for the university, and as I mentioned last night, he never really finished anything. He never finished school. He dabbled in university lectures in Prague and then later in Berlin and Munich, but never really completed anything. He was a self-taught genius. Here he is painted by the great Russian painter Boris Pasternak, the son of the great poet Pasternak. And you see behind him an image of Moscow, of Moscow in the late 19th century. The churches with gilded spires. And a photograph taken about a year before he died in 1926. Herzwerk. I mentioned this last night. What is Herzwerk? Heart work, yeah. And what is heart work? And when you hear that word, what does it conjure in your mind? What would heart work be? Not heart feelings, but heart work. Well, he coins this word in 1914 in a poem he entitled Wendung, or Turning. It was written just before the outbreak of what would become the Great War at the end of August in 1914, a war that convulsed Europe in a brutal, violent years of combat that ravaged societies. I think of that when I visit small parish churches in England or in Wales or in Scotland, and you see on the back wall the bronze plaque with the names of 30 or 40 or 50 men from the village, which might have been half of the men of military age in the village. It was also a traumatic war for Rilke because he was eventually conscripted against his will, put into a military uniform, and forced to, he never saw the front, but he was forced to write valiant, heroic stories about the men at the front lines to encourage Austrians to enlist. He wrote this poem, Turning. We won't read the whole poem, it's a long poem, but near the end of it, we come upon this phrase, these lines. For the matter of seeing, look is a boundary. There's only so far we can see, right? You know that. The horizon is always somewhere. We can't see beyond it. For the matter of seeing, look, is a boundary. And the world, the more we observe it, wants to flourish in love. What a claim. This is Rilke's, as much of a credo as Rilke ever had, I think. That the world wants to flourish in love. That every creature wants to flourish in love. Every animal, every human, every plant, he longs to flourish, not just to survive, but to flourish, and not just to flourish, but to flourish in love. That's what you want. That's what I want. I don't want to just live and breathe. You want to flourish. And not in your business activities. Oh, well, that might be lovely. No, you want, at the deepest part of who you are, you want to flourish in love. And this is what binds us to each other. It's what brings us to a place like this. Because we long to find not just a language, but an experience of flourishing in love. And we get it in glimpses and moments. Sometimes in longer relationships. All of it a foretaste of something eternal that we long for. The work of looking is now done. Do now the heart work with the images you hold within, for you overpower them, but don't yet know them. Astonishing lines. And lines I hope you'll take with you from this retreat. And muse over them, not just today. This is not an assignment for today. This is an invitation for the rest of your life. That's how Rilke understood it. That each of us is invited to, in a sense, discover ourselves by doing the heart work with what's within us. And of course, of what's yet to come, which will become part of us. Because all of these images, all of these experiences that you brought to this place, in this time, and this now, they're all there, waiting for you to find a way for them to flourish in love, waiting for you to discover not what you want them to mean, or even what they mean, but how they mean. I said this yesterday. This is what every poet knows. It's not about making meaning, it's about discovering how meaning is making itself in us. And most of the time we overpower the images. We force our memories to behave. We remember selectively, and we unremember aggressively. But Rilke is saying, no, these are treasures within us. The images, the experiences that we've had in our lives, the things that have brought you to this place from your earliest childhood, before you can even remember things. They're part of your memory. They're part of your unconscious memory. We know that now. Rilke couldn't have known that, although these things were just being discovered during his lifetime. Freud and Jung, Lou became a confidant of Freud's and perhaps one of his lovers, and the first woman to be trained in psychoanalysis under Freud. And she wanted desperately for Rilke to go into analysis, and he refused. He said, "I'm afraid I'll lose the gift. I'll understand too much. I'll understand too much. I'll overpower the images that I'm carrying." What's striking in reading Rilke is that often the poems he wrote at the end of his life go back to childhood memories. We don't have this is not a Rilke seminar, it's not a Rilke class, it's not even a Rilke retreat, so I won't belabor that. But this is true of every great artist, that nothing is wasted. in your life. Nothing is wasted if you know how to hold on to it, how to receive it, and let it speak in its own voice, not in the voice that you want it to speak in its own voice. This is such tender work that each of us is invited to do. To take the images that we hold within us and to do the heart work with them. Not to overpower them, because when we do that we don't know anything about them, but to let them speak. Let them have a voice. Let them be alive for you. And probably, well, we'll see this in a few moments, it's probably not the happy memories that are the most important ones for each of us, but the difficult ones. That's where our deepest learnings are waiting for us. And for many of us, it's not a journey we want to make. It can be very painful. And I would say that in most cases, we shouldn't try to do this alone. Having a confidant, a companion, a therapist, a friend, to journey with you through those difficult rememberings is crucial. Rilke knew that. And in a way, his poems, I think, are an invitation to encourage us to find the courage, the last part of the long retreat name, to create in beauty, to take the things in your life and make something beautiful of them. Whether they were beautiful at first is another issue. I think at the heart of the Christian liturgy, at the heart of our faith, is a sense that we always have a second chance. That's, if you ask me what does forgiveness mean, I just say it's the second chance that God gives us every moment of our life. Because God is not keeping track, keeping score. As Julian will tell us, God doesn't even actually know anything about forgiveness because God is never angry. God isn't blaming us. So there's no need from God's side to forgive. There's a need from our side to know that God loves us in spite of, actually because of our failings. As Julian puts it, sin is behovely, befitting, needful, necessary, but all shall be well. And all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. These are all woven together. I hope we'll see by the end of this time together how these mystics and poets, they're reaching for a common impulse of truth and of beauty and of goodness. And they're doing it in very different language. And Rilke, for the most part, without much attention to Christianity, although he was shaped as a Christian, he was baptized as a Christian, as a Catholic. But for the most part, he left that faith aside because the Catholicism he knew, and if you know something about Catholicism in the early 20th century, it was a hard place to be. The anti-modernist movement, this strict dogmatic Catholicism that was being rammed down the minds of Catholics against all the discoveries of the modern age. The world was changing, and the church did not want to change with it. It wanted to be the bulwark against change. And Rilke knew that change was inevitable. The question is not whether we will face change, but how. How you will face the changes in your life. So, that's turning. And this is one of the poem that Rilke began a collection. The Book of Images, he eventually called it the Book of Images, Das Buch der Bilder. It could be the Book of Pictures, the Book of Images. It grew and grew and grew until there were 2 books, and each had 2 parts. But the very first poem is called Entrance, and it's a good one to begin a retreat with. Entrance, Eingang. It goes like this. Whoever you are, wer du auch seist, whoever you are, when evening comes, go out of your little room where you know everything. The word he uses, the German word, it's pretty hard to translate it. It Stube, a Stube. Somebody, where's Hilda? No, not Hilda. Who's Vrena? There you are, Stube. How would you translate Stube?
It's got all sorts of resonances
Oh,
for me.
yeah, it does. Tell us about some of those. A Stube is an intimate place, right? A familiar place.
But it's also where you gather
Yes.
for a meal.
Yes.
And where you share things.
Yes, that's exactly right. Where you companion each other.
But it's got curtains as well.
Yes.
Which you can draw in the evenings.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's a marvelous word. And for most of us, we don't have an experience of this word anymore. But a Stube is an intimate place, a place where you break bread together, a place where the family would gather, a place where your most intimate friends would come. There would be a formal parlor when the minister would come, the priest would come. You'd meet in the formal parlor. You wouldn't bring him into the Stube. The Stube is a place for the intimate family gatherings.
Might have one of those stoves.
Yes,
Which
a kachelofen. Yeah,
where you can even sit on
You can-
it.
right.
And it's all tiled,
yes.
and it makes the room very, very warm.
Oh, it's fantastic, and it glows. Kachelofen. Whoever you are, when evening comes, go out of your intimate room. Yep.
Could you spell that word? so I
Stube?
can see it?
S-T-U-B-E. Stube. S-T, Stube. No H. Just S-T is Stube. And a Stube, it means a place where you feel safe. It's a place where you feel contained. It's a place where the world can be falling apart, but in your Stube, everything's okay. You draw the curtains. You gather together. And he's using a metaphor here, an image, right? Think of that experience in your life where you're safe. The Germans have a word that's untranslatable, Geborgenheit. Geborgenheit. The sense of being secure and safe and held and nurtured. Anyway, whoever you are, when evening comes, go out of your little room. This is when you go into the Stube at night, right? When evening comes, to gather with the family, to gather with the friends. But he says, okay, look, the entrance in your life is something else. Go out of your little room where you know everything, where you're in control, where you're the master, the mistress of the estate. Go out of that place. For your house stands on the verge of distances, whoever you are. I love this opening quatrain. Wer du auch seist, whoever you are. Your house, the Stube, and the house on the verge, on the boundary of distances. There's a world out there. It's an immense place. And yes, it can be foreboding. It can be confusing. It can be intimidating. But it's beckoning you. With your eyes so tired, they can barely free themselves from the worn threshold. You can feel yourself now thinking about crossing the threshold, to leave the little Stube and to go outside. Lift with measured pace this tree thing with Rilke, a single black tree, and place it before the skies, slender and alone. You're doing this in your mind. You're looking at the immensity of the world. And as you look out, you place a tree there, slender and alone. And you have made the world. And it is vast and like a word still ripening in the silences. I love that line. That our inner life is boundless. And the only question is what we do with that boundlessness. How we create in it. How we find a way of flourishing in love in it and bringing that flourishing to others who are longing for it to flourish in love. And it is vast. And like a word still ripening in the silences. This will be a theme woven through our days together and through our experience together. Language that matters needs silence to grow, to live, to flourish, to be. And just as your will grasps its meaning, your eyes let it tenderly go. Just as your will, that controlling part of your self, tries to get things under control again. Let's bring order back in. Let's manage this chaos. Let's make sure there's no disorder here. Your eyes, let it go. Your eyes, not your ears or your mind, your eyes, let it go. Whoever you are, when evening comes, what an invitation for a retreat. Go out of your little room. Go out of that intimate place where you know everything. For your house stands on the verge of distances, whoever you are, with your eyes so tired they can barely free themselves from the worn threshold. Lift with measured pace a single black tree and place it before the skies, schlank und allein, slender and alone. And you have made the world. Du hast die Welt gemacht. You've made the world. And it is vast. It is vast. And like a word still ripening in the silences. Isn't that a marvelous phrase? How words need to ripen, not with more words, not with the machinery of thinking. In that detachment, in that letting go. A beautiful reading from Lao Tzu, from the I Ching this morning, Lao Tzu, about the empty, the space in the middle. The jug has a space that makes it useful. The house, you build it with wood, but it's so that there can be life within it. All the things we use words for need the silence to inhabit them, to inhabit us. Well, some of you will know this woman, Eddie Hillison. If not, take careful note. And when you can, find your way to her writings. She was a Jew, Dutch, spent most of her short life in Amsterdam. She was an intellectual, and she was a passionate presence. She, along with most of the Jews in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, was eventually rounded up and sent to one of the camps. And from there in the Netherlands, a detaining camp, and from there was put on a train with her brother and her parents and sent to Auschwitz, and none of them survived. She took 2 books with her, a little pocket Bible and Rilke's Book of Hours. She loved Rilke, passionately, because there was something in his writings that she, as a Jew, that moved beyond confession and creed and doctrine and dogma, and expose something so essential about our human longings, our human journey. But that was the one book she took with her. She was executed in 1943, and in the last 2 years of her life, she wrote at her psychotherapist's direction, kept a journal. In 2 years, that journal filled more than 800 pages. Extraordinary. And from those 800 pages, a small selection was published in Dutch in 1981 and translated into English 4 years later in 1985, still widely available, called An Interrupted Life, The Diaries of Eddie Hillesum. In those diaries, at one crucial point in the last year of her life, this is what she wrote. Even if one's body aches, the spirit can continue to do its work, can it not? It can love and hineinhorchen, hearken unto itself and unto others, and what binds us to life, this word she got from Rilke, from reading one of Rilke's early letters. Hineinhorchen, to hearken into something, to listen into it, to listen attentively. Hearken, it's a strong word. Horchen, hineinhorchen, to listen into something. Hineinhorchen, I so wish I could find a Dutch equivalent for that German word. Truly, my life is one long hearkening unto myself and unto others, unto God. And if I say that I hearken, it is really God who is hearkening within me. The most essential and deepest in me, hearkening unto the most essential and deepest in the other. God to God. I'd say, if you had any doubts, it was worth coming just for that insight. Just for that insight. And this will be at the heart of what we do together over the next days, over this week. We're going to practice hineinhorchen, hearkening, and you have to start with yourself before you can practice on anyone else. You know that. You know that the only people who really know how to listen to you are the ones who know who they are, who've done some deep listening to themselves, to create that space, that spaciousness, to welcome you, to offer you hospitality, to say, I'm here for you. I am here for you. Come to me, come into me. Well, I have these, by the way. You're going to get the copy of this to take with you. This hineinhorchen, this hearkening into or hearkening unto, the most essential and deepest in me, hearkening unto the most essential and deepest in the other. And she rightly sees that this is God to God. It's not Eddie to Paul or you to your neighbor. What's happening here is God hearkening unto God in and through you, in and through us, in and through me. It's an astonishing thought. And what we're going to find in this strange mix of visionaries that we'll encounter in the coming days, these poets, these dreamers, these mystics, is an essential commitment to hineinhorchen, to hearkening unto, and a realization that when this happens, it's not your activity alone or the purposefulness of a good friend toward you. This is the experience of God, hearkening unto God, in and through us. Well, there it is. This is what the Spirit can continue to do, even when the body is aching, even when we feel there is no path forward. We go inside, and in that going inside, that listening inside, we create a spaciousness to listen to others. It doesn't happen the other way around. We don't find ourselves by listening to others. You know that. We find others by, first of all, listening, hearkening unto ourselves, and discovering God in that hearkening. God to God. One more little poem of Rilke's, also from the Book of Hours, the prayers. And there it is. Ich liebe die dunklen Stunden meines Wesens. I love the dark hours of my life, of my being, of my substance. I often want to argue with that myself. I'm not sure about you, but I don't always like the dark hours of my life. Do you? Come on. I mean, really? There's something about these dark hours that we resist. We live in a culture that resists darkness, period. There are only a few places in North America that are true dark zones. One of them is in Maine. I spent a very brutally cold February skiing, cross-country skiing across this dark zone in the Baxter Park a year ago. And at night, it was staggering. Because only in a truly dark place can you begin to see. That was a Theodore Roethke line. In a dark time, the eye begins to see, right? But often we choose not to see in dark times. We choose to fill our eyes with something, with light. We look away. It's difficult. It can be very painful. All admitted. This is a 23-year-old who had already suffered an immense amount as a child, as a young person. So he knew something about this. And he knew that something about his own flourishing in love depended upon facing the darkness within himself, the dark hours of his being. I love the dark hours of my being, for they deepen my senses. They deepen my senses. In them, as in old letters. It's funny, when I was teaching undergraduates in Germany for the last 10 years, basically, I remember reading this poem with them, and it didn't matter what we were studying. Rilke somehow got into the courses, so at some point I brought this, and I asked them, they were confused by this. And I realized that almost none of them had ever received a letter, right? These are kids who grew up with a smartphone in their hands, and their parents had smartphones in their hands. And so I would sometimes say, okay, I can't do it anymore, it's too far gone now, but I would ask them, well, okay, you got a letter? Yes. I said, well, I know who wrote it to you. Oh, you can't know that. I said, yeah, I know. It was either your grandmother or a great aunt. Probably wasn't your grandfather. But it was somebody of that generation who still wrote letters. And for those of you old enough, and not all of you are, but some of you are, many of you, do you keep some of the letters? I mean, I keep my dad's letters. I'm glad I kept them, because he died a few years ago, in his late 90s. What is it about those old letters? Why do you keep them?
It's a connection.
Sorry?
It's a connection.
It's a connection, yeah. And a letter, unlike an email, you feel the hand. You see the script, right? You can feel, you can imagine the person sitting with a fountain pen or whatever and writing that letter. And you kept it because you treasured that person. Because you treasured that moment of presence, which a letter brings in a way an email does not do. Neurologically, it does not do it. Because it's erased of the body. An email is erased of the physical body. There is no body in an email. There's a body in a letter. You feel the body of someone taking the effort to write. Okay, in these dark hours, as in old letters, I find my life, my daily life, already lived in holy words, so soft and subdued. That's a marvelous beginning of a poem. I love the dark hours of my life, for they deepen my senses. In them, as in old letters, I find my daily life already lived in holy words, so soft and subdued. From them, I've come to know that I have room for a second life, timelessly wide. It's the center of the poem. And you could almost say this is the center of Rilke's convictions as a human being, and certainly as a poet, as an artist. From these dark hours, I've come to know that I can begin again, that I can make a second start, a new start. Because I don't know that in the bright hours. I don't imagine that I could start again, that there's anything new waiting for me, for you. It's the dark hours. It's those difficult seasons of loss, of pain, of disappointment, of betrayal, where you might feel your life is about to come apart, and it may be about to come apart. The only question Rilke would say is, do you have the courage to create now in beauty? Not to try to rescue something, or fix something, or evade something, but to create in beauty. And at times, oh, there it is, I'm like a tree. You see, I didn't pick these poems at random, but not because they're about trees. He was fascinated with trees. At times, I'm like a tree, ripe and rustling above the dead boy's grave, gathering him, what an image, with its warm roots, fulfilling that dream he'd lost in sorrows and songs. That is a magnificent poem. Who's the dead boy, do you think? Yeah, himself. Yeah, he's thinking about himself, the life he lost as a boy, the joy that was taken from him as a boy, the sense of Geborgenheit, security, comfort that he never found as a boy. His parents were deeply unhappy with each other and eventually separated and divorced, which today is common, but in that day was even more horrific than it is today, or can be. He felt he could never please his mother or his father for different reasons. And he carried that burden with him through his life. But what's so striking about this poem is not that, really. To be like a tree, to gather something alive from that dead boy in his grave, the dream that he'd lost in sorrows and poems, in sorrows and songs. It's this. From those dark hours, I've come to know that I have room for a second life, timelessly wide. This is really the heart of this retreat. That from those images you carry in your life, and perhaps particularly the most difficult images that are part of you, they're not an end. And they'll only be a beginning if you welcome them. If you welcome them and find that second life, timelessly wide. We're going to take a break in just a minute, but before we do, I'm going to just take 5 minutes right now, and let's go back to this poem, The Dark Hours. If you wish, you don't have to, you do a pondering prompt, but if you want to do this as a writing prompt, if you have a journal in hand, just write that first line, I love the dark hours of my being. And you can disagree with it, you can argue with it, you can resist it, you can contradict it, but for the moment, just chronicle for a few minutes some of those dark hours. Without trying to understand them, excuse them, fix them, apologize for them, become angry because of them, just chronicle them. What are those dark hours that you've faced in your life, that you carry within you, like those images that need heart work, your heart work. So, just chronicle them. Don't try to explain them. Just jot them down. So, welcome back. Figure out a rhythm of how to do the morning sessions. The second session of the day is really only an hour. So if it works to have a tea break in the middle, or we could just go a little bit longer and then take a tea break, might be better tomorrow. So let me know what you think sometime during the day. What I would suggest that you might do this afternoon is to take the beginnings of what you just wrote and to just draw a line, if that's the way you think, just draw a line on your journal and underneath it write this. You'll get this in the handout in a moment. From them, these dark hours, I've come to know that I have room for a second life, timelessly wide. It's a marvelous image. Ich habe Raum. German has that same ambivalent word for room, space, room. And you have that room. Even when it doesn't feel like it, you have that room to live, to do the heart work with those images of the dark hours of your life. And see where that takes you, see where that carries you. As this is a spiritual retreat, you're not looking for final answers, you're simply marking the journey of right now. So, some of you are practice journalers, for others it may not be something that you do very often or at all. So when you're journaling, just to let your thoughts flow, not to try to manage them, not to try to control them. You're not trying to write a final draft. You're simply chronicling your life right now. We'll end with a late letter of Rilke's life to a woman he never met but corresponded with. That was true of Rilke throughout his life. He wrote more than 10,000 letters. And he spent as many people like him, many artists, spent a part of every day writing letters. Every afternoon it was his time for writing letters. He had 2 pens in his possession. For one of them he used to pay the bills and do the necessary things. And the other one he used to write letters and poetry. That was a special pen. And that he used the same pen for both of those is not unimportant, because he saw that writing letters, like writing poetry, is creating connection. It's reaching out with a hope and a confidence of making connection. And in this letter, he was already beginning to feel the discomfort that eventually led to the full-blown experience of leukemia. He died of leukemia, a horrific disease in any age, but particularly in that time. There's really not much that could be done apart from trying to manage pain. He died in a sanatorium not too far from where he lived in Switzerland at that time. He lived in we'll see this afternoon, in a little stone tower that he called his chateau, Chateau de Mozot, in the upper valley of the Rhone River in Switzerland, French-speaking Switzerland. There is no force in the world but love. And when you carry it within you, if you simply have it, even if you remain baffled as to how to use it, what a remarkable beginning. There is no force in the world but love. Those other voices we're going to be listening to, Eckhart and Julian, Simone Weil, Hildegard of Bingen, they shared this conviction that there was no power of evil. There was only one force. The question is how we use that force, the force of love. When you carry it within yourself, if you simply have it, even if you remain baffled as to how to use it, it will work its radiant effects and help you out of and beyond yourself, and that's absolutely vital. Love takes us finally out of ourselves, out of that self that we spend so much energy trying to cultivate, trying to manage, trying to present, the ego self, what Thomas Merton would call the false self. But it's the self that we spend an inordinate amount of time obsessing over. I'm always struck, when you come into an airport, any airport, well, I mean, an international airport, right? You go through the security, and then you come into the den of wonders. And what do you see first? Perfumes, all kinds, hundreds and thousands and colognes, right? I always spritz myself for the benefit of the person sitting next to me on the airplane. I've been sweating through the security lines. You haven't done that, but I have done that. And then the liquor. Amazing liquor. It's such a funny thing, right? Anyway, the false self, the self presenting something that isn't real. We spend so much energy trying to manage that false self. And I think Rilke is quite right here that love finally helps us out of and beyond ourself, into that place, empty place, where we can receive, where we have room for a second life, which may be completely unrelated to the first one, right? It's not just a repair job he's talking about, like going in to have your car tuned up. No, you don't need a tune-up. You need maybe a whole new body, an engine, I don't know, maybe it's a bad metaphor. But we're not talking about that. And here, one must never lose this belief. One must simply, and if it were nothing else, abide in it. The belief that there is only one force in love and in the world, and that is love. In your life, there's only one force that matters, that's real. There are other things that declare themselves important, but they're not. Rilke was quite clear, as these other writers, artists will also be in their own ways, that the one force that matters is the force of love. The world wants to flourish in love. And you want to flourish in love. Honestly, you do. I know you do. I do. Sometimes we can't admit it. We're so burdened with our own anxieties, our doubts, our self-doubt, our insecurities, our discomforts. But at the heart of it, each of us wants to flourish in love. And we long to allow ourselves the spaciousness to encounter others, to meet others at that place of wanting to flourish in love. You've met people like that in your life. I know you have. And you never forget them. They are indelibly marked in your life. Think of one of those persons in your life right now. Maybe your grandmother or an early friend, childhood friend, could be. Someone you've known for years, decades, your whole life. Or someone you just met, but you, in the encounter, something happened to you. In that chance, catching their eye, sharing a story, something happened. It can be like that, right? This is what really this whole retreat is about. About inviting each of us to get in touch again with our yearning to flourish in love. Your yearning, my yearning to flourish in love. And that might be another way you want to write underneath the dark hour section of your chronicling. How do you want to flourish in love? What does your flourishing look like? What will that second life be for you? Ein zweites Leben, a second life. We'll go out on one last poem. Abiding in that belief. The German word could be translated enduring in that belief as well. One last poem. Again from the Book of Hours, Prayers of a Young Poet. Again, this is the old monk, the old iconographer, chronicling in his journal these prayers. I find you, God. I find you in all these things I'm at ease with and like a brother. So much in these opening lines. I find you in all these things I'm at ease with and like a sister. What does it mean to be at ease? It's a beautiful word, phrase in English, isn't it? To be at ease. To be undefended. To be safe. To be welcoming. I find you, God, in all the things I'm at ease with and like a sister. As seeds, you warm yourself in the least of things. You, God, warm yourself like a little seed in the least of things. And give yourself lavishly to the great ones. This is a wondrous play of powers that courses so obediently through things, growing in the roots, vanishing, here's a tree again, vanishing in the trunks, and in the treetops, rising like a resurrection. It's a gem of a poem. I've been reading this for years, sort of stumbling along with this poem, trying to figure it out. I was working way too hard at it. The images are so simple. That God is that wondrous play of powers that lives in everything, in you, in the tree, in your neighbor, in the people you like, the people you don't like, the ones you love, the ones you're afraid of. God is at play in all of these things, growing in the roots, vanishing in the trunks. You can feel the sap rising. And in the treetops, rising like a resurrection, bursting forth like a resurrection. But what's so crucial, I think, about this poem is the very beginning of it. I find you, God, in all these things I'm at ease with, and like a brother. This is what flourishing in love looks like. It's finding that ease with things. It's befriending things that frighten us, that confuse us, that we don't understand. It's opening ourselves to the life force, the love force that's even there in those incomprehensible things, people, experiences, the dark hours, as it were. And we only begin to discover God when we put down our guard, our decision-making faculty that tells us where God can and can't be, how love can and can't be, how joy can and can't be. As seeds, you warm yourself in the most insignificant things. God warming God. What a bizarre image. Like a seed. Like a seed that carries the entire plant, the entire organism, creature. And you give yourself lavishly to the great ones. This is the wondrous play of powers that courses so obediently through things, growing in the roots, vanishing in the trunks, and in the treetops rising like a resurrection. So we're beginning with heart work, and it's the work of not just this retreat or today or this hour, it's the work of a lifetime. Giving ourselves heartfully to the life we've been given, without judging it, without being ashamed of it, embarrassed by it, proud of it, resistant to it, to open ourselves to the one gift God has given us. And that's who you are. It's not who you want to become or who you've been, it's who you are becoming now. That second life, that second chance, as Hilda Domin put it, is at the heart of the Christian story, acted out on the stage of crucifixion and resurrection. But it's not just on that stage, it's in each life, each of your lives, each of our lives. That those dark hours may feel like an abandonment. My God, why have you forsaken me? The very words of Jesus, of the psalm. But that's not the end. If there's any miracle in this life, it's the miracle of the second chance. The miracle of the resurrection. Not back then. We don't know much about that resurrection, but we're invited to find out about it through our own life, through our journey into those dark hours, and discovering in them that we have room there for a second life, timelessly wide. Let us bless the Lord. Thanks be to God. We'll see you at lunch.